How's it going, everyone? I hope you guys had a good week. Welcome to another episode. Today we are covering contracting versus full-time jobs or permanent jobs. I've experienced both, and I'd like to share with you guys about the positives and negatives of each, because there is positives and negatives on each side. And you guys most likely, whenever you actually start in the industry, will experience one or the other or both. Please, if you actually are a subscriber here and you know what my channel is about, then destroy the like button, because it makes a massive difference when it comes to YouTube, so they notice that we're here and we're doing this thing on a weekly basis. So please do that. And if you're new to this channel, welcome. My name is Harvey Newman. Please subscribe if you enjoyed this video. So let's get started. So I'd like to start this video by telling you guys a little bit about why these two roles exist in the games industry and why most people are in either one or the other. Full-time jobs or permanent jobs obviously are self-explanatory, but in the games industry, they give you like reassurance that you are going to be in the job for the whole duration of the project. When you sit down and you're actually in front of your desk and your computer, you know that you will be there to see the project to the end, which is great. Contracting is there for two reasons in the games industry. One, the role is not really established yet, so maybe it's a temporary role that needs to be filled in. Or the most usual way why contracting exists in games is because contracting helps a ton for studios to finish games on time. So towards like last year or 2 years before publishing, a lot of contractors normally come to the studio and then they stay within the studio for a year, 6 months, a few months, and they help to ship the game. Once that's done, normally what happens is, which is quite sad, is that the contractors normally leave the studio and the studio goes back to the default number that they had before. Now, having said all that, now that you know why full-time or permanent jobs and contracting is and why they exist in games, let's talk about the pros and cons of each. So let's talk about full-time or permanent jobs. They are obviously the most preferred way for people to work because everyone wants stability. You're actually going to go to that company and you're going to stay there for the foreseeable future. As long as you're doing a good job, as long as you pass your probation, doesn't matter if it's 3 months, 6 months, then you're golden, you're cool. Now, there's a lot of benefits to that. So you get a lot of perks. So like healthcare or holidays. Companies have a bunch of stuff when you are a full-time employee. Sometimes you get share options as well, which is great. All kinds of stuff happen, or you have the write-off whenever you are full-time job. So it's completely normal that people have a tendency to go to companies and they want that full-time contracting job. Contracting is actually quite liberating, I feel. When I was doing it, I was actually doing it and I was working for my own. So it gives you a sense of like independence, and it was actually perfect because I actually then had to work for another company that I was a freelance, and I used my company that I had at the time to actually use for the freelance work that I had to do afterwards. And you get used to actually kind of invoicing the company that you're actually working for and making sure that you actually get paid on time, and you have an accountant, and you're considered a director of a company even though it's just you. It's either that you are independent and you work on your own as a contractor for the company, or you work for an agency. The agency then sells your services to the company, and the company pays the agency and the agency pays you. The problem with working with the agency is that the agency normally takes a cut of your pay, so you actually get a little less money as if you were working directly as a contractor for a company. And the other benefit of actually being a contractor is that you get a higher pay. You get normally a higher pay, and this is because they want to compensate for the fact that you don't have a lot of perks like a full-time job. You don't get holidays, you don't get vacation, you don't get like time off paid if you actually have an injury, or if you actually have to stay in the hospital, if you have to stop working for any reason, that is not paid for you. It feels very much more unstable, and it depends on the kind of person you are, right? So when I did the contracting, I loved it because I felt like everything was in my hands. I just had to work hard and make sure that the money was coming in. But when the money was coming in, I was making sure that I was leaving some aside in case anything happened. I was leaving some aside in order to go on holidays. All of that stuff you need to actually create on your own, which requires much more of a planned out and like money savvy kind of situation. So it helped me a ton to actually kind of get to understand that of all the money that you're receiving, some of it needs to go here and some of it needs to go here. And that stuff really helped me, and I felt really good about it. But I know that it's not for everyone, and some people get very nervous with that. And also having to set up your company, having to actually deal with an agency, having to get an accountant to make sure that your paperwork is set, and having to like keep receipts, that stuff also can take a toll. But I recommend you guys actually experiencing contracting, at least for a little bit, because it definitely shifts your mind about what you actually want. I became much more of an entrepreneur when I became a contractor because of exactly those things. To me, creating a company was a big thing before that, and now that I contracted and I had these other things going on, all of a sudden I felt I can actually do this, it's fine. I can actually create my own small company to actually deal with my own endeavors, independent endeavors, and it feels good. Normally when it comes to money, you don't get as much. When it comes to bonuses, when it comes to actually getting paid a little bit more year on year, some companies can be difficult with that, because that stability is for both sides, right? So you are stable in the company, great, but the company also is stable with you, which means that when it comes to that yearly review, if you have a bad company or a company that actually doesn't really kind of stretch the goals or had a bad year monetarily or whatever, it means that maybe that year you don't get a pay bump. Maybe that year you don't get a bonus. And that comes with the territory, because your full-time job, you're a permanent employee. So if you want to actually stay that way, then you actually normally stay there and don't say nothing. And that is a problem, because I used to work for Crytek way back, and there was a time, and it's really known in the industry because it was a massive scandal at the time. They actually didn't pay the employees for 3 months. And basically what they said to the employees is like, well, if you actually want to continue working for Crytek, then just accept it as it is. Whenever we have the money, we'll pay you. And that's a really bad situation to be in, because you don't want to lose your job because now you have this contract. Maybe you have a house, maybe you have a family, and all, and you don't want to lose that. But on the other hand, the company is telling you like, there's nothing we can do about money right now. So that's an extreme example, and it's the first time and the last time that I heard. So it doesn't happen in the industry, but just so you know that, yeah, it's permanent for both sides, right? So with that sense of stability that you have with the company can have the same with you. And it can be bad to the point that they might not actually pay you as much as you deserve because they think that you're going to be there for the foreseeable future. There's also this the sense of how the people perceive you within the company when you are a full-time or a permanent staffer. The longer you stay in the company, in games, the more there's a sense that you're going to stay there forever. Even if you are an amazing person at doing your job, doesn't matter if it's animation or anything else, it might be that companies might see someone exactly in your position doing exactly the same on another company and think that they are better than you just because they work on this other company that is very shiny and very cool. So this person might come into the company with a higher salary than you because they came in at a higher position that you had when you came in. That feels very unfair for the people that work in the company, that have been working their butts off for years to actually get a higher salary. And that gets compounded if you're not getting the projects that you want. Like, let's say you've been working hard for many years, but all of a sudden they kind of like put you in projects that don't really vibe with you just because you've been there for so long. That and money together gets compounded into like not an ideal solution, in a position where you're going to be a very sad animator working for a company just because you're stable, just because you're safe. I don't recommend that to anybody because the industry can be tough sometimes. So if you're unhappy, or if you actually kind of been in that situation or are in that situation right now, I highly recommend you guys, if you can, then just like look for another job, because you being a happy animator makes you actually do your best work, and therefore it will make you a better person and a happier person with a much brighter future as well. This contracting versus like permanent jobs conversation happens all over the industry. Some countries have it more than others. I know that in California it happens a lot. There's a lot of people contracting and very little like of permanent staff, while here in Europe is the opposite. There's very little contracting and there's a lot of permanent staff. So it really depends where you actually end up in, but either way, there's a lot of positives and negatives on both sides. It's not all like gravy whenever you are a permanent employer of a company. There is definitely downsides to it. I have been fortunate enough to actually have worked on both. I am now on a permanent job, and I used to work contracting for a while. And I enjoy both. I really enjoy both. I really think that you can make the most out of any situation you're in, as long as you rely on your skills, and as long as you are confident that you can deliver no matter the position that you're in, right? So yeah, I hope that was useful for you. And as always, have a great rest of the week. Don't forget to smash that like button, as I mentioned in the beginning, and see you guys next week. Peace.